Tell me, Smokey walks by, everybody jumps out and yells, surprise!
Oh, you could have not said it.
I'll bet. Tell me, Larry, what kind of gift? 50-year-old bear who teaches people how to prepare.
Fuzzy slippers.
Ain't nice?
Yeah, well, almost perfect. Smokey made a wish and blew out all the candles. Stirred them with a stick, and then he buried them. Hey, you know how it is, Ted. Some guys, they just can't leave work at the office.
Celebrate Smokey's 50th birthday. And remember, only you can prevent forest fires. This message brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Advertising Council.
WGBR.
Welcome back to Rush Limbaugh, the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Coming to you today, we are from the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Richard Gephardt Friday at the National Health Club asserted that Republicans' opposition to Clinton's health care proposals was just another example, like their original hostility to Social Security and Medicare, of unwillingness to improve people's lives. He said, every time we try to lift people up, they say it's socialism, it's big government, it's tax and spend. Now that the Democratic Party is trying to fix the crushing health care crisis, we're hearing the same rehashed, time-worn, discredited rhetoric. No, Congressman, what you're hearing are warnings. Too many times, liberal Democrats, when they've controlled all three branches, have raised taxes and ruined people's lives. And it's not going to happen again if we can help it.
Monk's Furniture Warehouse in LaGrange has set the standard for savings, selection, and satisfaction. The Warehouse Way for over 10 years. From all over eastern North Carolina, customers save every day at Monk's Furniture Warehouse.
You come in, and I think you're going to be pleased with the down-home atmosphere that we have there. We've been here 10 years because of the customers that we have. We really appreciate that, and that's what made us successful.
Even after the sale, satisfaction is still the goal, with service from the store that saves you more the Warehouse Way every day. Monk's Furniture Warehouse.
We give good service on our product. If one of our customers has a problem, we want to know about it. When we find out about it, we're going to get them satisfied and get that product taken care of for them.
Monk's Furniture Warehouse in LaGrange. They thank you for your continued patronage for the next 10 years.
And I really want to extend a great appreciation to them for what they've done for us for the past 10 years.
Monk's Furniture Warehouse, Highway 70 between Goldsboro and Kinston at Little Baltimore.
WGBR, Goldsboro's very own.
From ABC News, I'm Gary Nahn. The Clinton administration endorses the Smoke-Free Environment Act, which either bans or restricts smoking in all commercial buildings because of the hazard to non-smokers. EPA Chief Carol Browner says that billions of dollars would be saved by businesses in lost wages and healthcare costs associated with smoking-related illnesses.
EPA firmly believes that the scientific evidence warrants actions to protect non-smokers from involuntary exposure to secondhand smoke.
Virginia Republican Congressman Thomas Bliley criticizes the scientific methods of the EPA in reaching the conclusion that secondhand smoke kills about 3,000 non-smokers every year.
I am concerned that EPA deliberately misused and manipulated scientific data in order to reach a predetermined, politically motivated result.
Tobacco farmer Vernon Apple says the tax proposal in the Clinton administration budget plan defies common sense.
We feel 150 pounds.
You can't tax the cigarettes to get more money and then cause people to quit smoking. They end up with less tax. You know, to me, it's just not good common sense to do something like that.
Apple Farms near Greensboro, North Carolina, the federal tobacco tax would increase from 24 cents a pack to 99 cents a pack under the Clinton plan. United Parcel Service officials say most of their workers are on the job today, despite calls from the Teamsters Union to protest a walkout. In Doraville, Georgia, some UPS employees are working, some aren't. Picket lines are being crossed. And in Columbus, Ohio, these two strikers do back the protest.
We feel 150 pounds is too much for a company to ask one person to handle and packages and to deliver and to load.
If this thing goes into effect, God only knows what we're going to end up with. This is an imminent danger hazard
which has prompted the International to take this action, and we're in full support of it.
The Teamsters are upset with the new rules, which more than double the allowable weight for packages. You're listening to ABC News.
I want that Chevy truck, and I want it now. I want to pop open that hood and know those horses are mine. I want to pet them. I can't wait to get it dirty. I want to boldly drive where no man has driven before. I want to give it a name like Mean Machine or Weekend Warrior.
GMAC knows when you want the truck, you want the truck. And you can arrange to finance or lease it fast right at your Chevrolet truck dealership. GMAC, the expressway home.
I've had dreams about this truck, and they ain't pretty.
Do you know there are only 44 sounds in the English language? 44. And when you learn these 44 sounds called phonics, you can read and spell almost everything. That's why Hooked on Phonics is so successful. We've set these 44 sounds to music, making learning to read simple and fun. So get hooked on phonics and take the mystery out of learning to read. Call 1-800-ABCDEFG.
The insurance industry is expected to pay out $2.5 billion worth of insurance claims from the Northridge, California earthquake, making it the costliest quake ever for the insurance business. United Nations officials contend there would be no way to pin blame for the worst atrocity of the Bosnian Civil War. There was crucial evidence missing. It's unclear where the explosive came from. 68 people killed, 197 wounded over the weekend. A single 120-millimeter bomb crashed into Sarajevo's main outdoor market. Bosnia's ambassador, Mohammed Shakabi, wants NATO to step in.
I expect them to respond. They made the promises. The commitments, I think, are still there. The means is there. The provocation is there. I don't know how much more they need to see happen.
Shakabi was on ABC's Good Morning America. Some changes in the SATs. The College Board says that students taking the new Scholastic Aptitude tests will, for the first time, be allowed to use calculators. The new version of the test coming out next month will have 10 math questions without the customary multiple-choice answers. Students will be required to come up with their own responses. The verbal part of the new SATs designed to better test thinking skills. Wall Street Dow Jones Industrials are now up 21.95 at 3893.94. The volume 214,110,000 shares. The trading is heavy. This is ABC News. Mark Field, LensCrafters lab technician.
A lot of people can't get through their day without their glasses. Being a LensCrafters lab technician, I help them live better by letting them see better. I make glasses one pair at a time. When we first came on the market, a lot of people were like, glasses in an hour, we can't do that. It can be done, and it's done right. You can't describe the feeling when you see a little kid put on a pair of glasses and see for the first time.
LensCrafters, helping people see better, 1 hour at a time. For the ABC Information Network, I'm Gary Nunn.
Did you ever feel like you were talking to a brick wall? That's what it's like with my dad. He doesn't listen to me. He says that's my job, listening. It doesn't work like that, but you can't tell him. He's like a brick wall, a picket fence, a croquet mountain, a ratchet set, a ring ding.
Dad, you could be like headphones, an answering machine, a big pair of elephant ears, a satellite dish, a receptive... It's never too late to learn to listen. The Mennonite Churches.
A very nice afternoon underway for early February as a weak area of high pressure briefly dominates the region. An approaching cold front may change things for some of us tomorrow, though. The forecast for this afternoon, mostly sunny and mild. We'll have light winds, highs today in the low to mid-60s. Then tonight, partly cloudy skies, lows dropping off to 35 to 40 degrees. And for Tuesday, it'll be partly sunny, except mostly cloudy with a few sprinkles up near the Virginia border. Highs tomorrow, 55 in the north to 70 in the south. I'm Mike Moss at the Weather Center.
Expressed by the host on this show are sweeping America. Why? Because the views expressed by the host on this show are unassailable. The views expressed by the host of this show are the result of a relentless pursuit of the truth and therefore represent a piercing truth. You've got to face it, folks.
This is a special edition of the Rush Limbaugh program, America Held Hostage. And now, from our studios in New York City, here is Rush Limbaugh.
Let's keep track of our days of the raw deal. The Clinton presidency, day 384 today for the poor and the middle class. Day 403 for the rich and the dead. 1,076 days left for everybody. In the Los Angeles Daily News last Thursday, February 3rd. I'm holding it here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers. Is a column by Michelle Malkin. She must be listening to this show because it says here, keep groupies out of the jury box. Somebody just faxed this to me. This, after I said last week, in my own way, we got to find a way to keep women out of juries or off juries when the accused is a stud. She explores, does Michelle Malkin, the notion that groupies may have ended up on the Menendez jury, and she writes this: if there is another trial, this time prosecutors must be on guard for the Oprah factor among potential female jurors. I remember, it's a woman writing this. Women who are easily swayed by whimpering guests and a host with flashy clothes and a commanding presence will melt in front of Leslie Abramson and her weepy client. Groupies cannot render justice. It's not cathartic. Maybe I'm being unfair. Maybe Eric's women aren't representative of some spreading groupie contagion out there. But did you happen to catch the guests on one of the afternoon talk show hosts last week? Sally Jesse Raphael said women who would leave their husbands to marry a Menendez. Then we come to something I mentioned earlier, and I've seen this a lot lately. Over the weekend, I saw two more reports. USA Weekend cover story, how schools fail girls. And then last night on ABC's World News Sunday, Carol Pimpton and her report on all-girls schools and so forth and so on. Now, this is a new trend, other than the occasional woman trying to bust into the Citadel or bust into VMI. We do have some conflicting points of view out here, but the notion is that girls are not getting a fair shake in public school classrooms. Here's basically how the riff goes. Teachers are more responsive to boys. Boys have more confidence. Boys raise their hands more often. Teachers call on boys more. Girls do not develop confidence in schools. They do not develop self-esteem, and as such, they are shortchanged. That may be true. I'm not going to argue it right now with statistics on this, because I think that it has been documented that this is the case. We've heard this a number of times, but I do want to stipulate, in fact, I'm eager to stipulate that argument for the sake of what I'm going to say. I'm eager to stipulate, grant the conclusion that girls are not called on as often, and girls do not develop the same confidence, skills, and self-esteem that boys do in class. I'll stipulate that for a second here. If it's true, given that it's true, is the solution to pull the girls out of school and start their own school? And start their own classroom where they're going to feel more comfortable, where they're going to have more confidence, and where they're going to become totally desocialized to boys, and later on men? You see, my friends, we have in America today this amazing thing going on, and that is the victimization of all things female. Women are now victims of virtually every aspect of society. They're victims of childbirth. They are victims of chauvinism. They're victims of rape. They are victims of sexual harassment. They're victims of rude men. They are victims of television shows. They are victims of discrimination in virtually every walk of life. And so now, a number of people, including parents of young girls, have stated it makes more sense to pull the girls out of these schools, have all-girls schools, where they're at least going to learn, and they're going to have confidence, and they won't be discriminated against and all that. And I am here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that we have tried desegregation. We've tried it with the races, and it doesn't work, does it? If there is a problem, it would seem to me it's the teachers that need to be corrected and the teaching methods that need to be changed. If teachers are not paying enough attention to girls, it's not that girls then need their own schools with girl teachers. It's the teachers need to be made aware of the fact that there is a deficiency and that girls in classrooms maybe aren't called on enough, or maybe you're not made to feel involved enough, whatever. But certainly it is not the case that you should pull the girls out of class and give them their own school. I'll tell you why. Because when they get out of school, guess what they're going to run into? Men. They're going to have been sheltered from men. They're going to have been sheltered from what men do, who men are, the way men act, the way the real world is. The real world is not devoid of men. They've tried all-female businesses like banks and so forth. I'm not aware of them working. Adulthood, including marriage, romance, family, child-rearing. Sad to say it, feminists, for the normal sectors of our society involves men and women living together, working together. If you take girls out of the classroom and start their own schools, you're going to desocialize them. And you're going to have young girls graduating from high school and going on to college who come out and they're going to hate men, they're going to resent men, they're not going to understand men, they're not going to know how to get along with men. Plus, let's face it, life isn't a bowl of cherries. You know, you have to assert yourself throughout life. There are those who sit and mix and melt into the background and never get noticed. And there are those who assert themselves and try to get to the front of the line, sit in the front of the classroom, do whatever. Life is not at all the way it is going to be taught or represented in these all-girls schools. And I believe that it is a result of the movement to victimize all women that is leading to this cockeyed notion of taking girls out of mixed classrooms and starting all-girls schools. And it is something about which I would like to discuss with you, this audience. You may have trouble getting through today. Getting through to this show is a very difficult thing to do. Some of you may try it out for 2 years to get through and weigh in on this. But I very much would like to talk with people about this, this whole budding notion that schools are failing girls, and as a result of that, girls have to have their own schools. And then, as I say, you couple that with the occasional weirdo woman who wants to force her way into every academy that only men are allowed now. West Point, Citadel, VMI, a number of previously all, and the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, all kinds of women are busting down the doors demanding to be let in. And yet now we've got a movement led by, and I assume some feminists are involved in this. I would bet my life on it that there is some feminist thinking involved here, that we've got to take these little girls out of school because it just isn't fair what's happening to them there. They're not learning properly. All these so-called horror stories. They even want to revise textbooks. Once they get these girls into different classrooms, they want to revise textbooks. So, once again, what do we find ourselves doing in our society? Separating and aligning ourselves into groups of some kind, either by virtue of gender or by virtue of race, by virtue of sexual orientation, by virtue of ethnicity, by virtue of religion. We are becoming a segregated nation, a nation of groups at war with one another, vying in the American political system for power. And as this happens, the individual sacrifices his or her individuality in exchange for power of the group at large. This is a no-no. This is bad. This goes against the distinct American culture. And there is one. There is a reason people from all over the world have flocked to the United States. And it's not so they can come here and be who they were when they, as they lived where they wanted to flee. They came here to experience what America offered. America offered promise. America offered freedom. And with the tools of rugged individualism and an honest work ethic, people were given the notion that they could be the best they could be here. and when you sacrifice your rugged individualism, and when you give it up in terms or in exchange for the political power of the group you choose to belong to, you can say goodbye to the survivability of the good old American culture. I think this is an absolutely rotten idea. And what would you say to those girls who are doing well and flourishing and achieving extremely well in classrooms that are conventional with boys and girls? Would you say that that's an anomaly? Would you say, well, it's always been an anomaly? It's always been a little weird. It's always been abnormal. Girls should have always been in girls' schools, and boys should have always been in boys-only schools. This notion of putting boys and girls together in school was a mistake we made some 2,000 years ago, and only now are there people smart enough in America to realize this. How do you explain the achievement of women who have achieved what they've achieved in mixed company, so to speak? Keep one thing in mind. You separate these young girls for a number of years, and then they graduate from this segregationist institution called school and get out into the real world without any knowledge or experience in functioning in a dog-eat-dog, highly competitive situation, and you're going to find a bunch of young girls who have now become young women who are going to resent it, who are not going to understand it. They're going to be even more bitter than they were before they went into their all-girls school, and they're going to turn inward even more. And I am not convinced that there aren't some who would hope this to be the case. I think we have so many bitter, angry people in charge of the way we educate our kids in America today that they're taking out their revenge. They're seeking to mollify themselves and rationalize and justify their own failures in the American system, taking it out on others who come after them. And I think this is just another sign of it. Totally stupid move, a bad move, and a bad sign. Back after this.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
There's no free lunch in America, especially when you're in sales. You've got to maximize every opportunity and strike when your prospects are hot. That's why more and more of America's sales superstars are using a new secret weapon, Maximizer for Windows. Easy-to-use Maximizer software instantly turns your PC into a sales command center, tracking every detail of your customer contacts, managing your schedule, speeding correspondence, alerting you when it's time to send a letter or make a call, and systematically moving your prospects toward a buying decision so you close sale after sale after sale like you've never done before. Maximizer users report doubling, even tripling their business. No wonder PC Magazine awarded Maximizer the highest score of any contact manager for Windows, and Mobile Office Magazine named it Contact Manager of the Year. In fact, we're so sure you love Maximizer that we'll make you an incredible guarantee. Use Maximizer for a whole year. If you don't close more sales than you ever thought possible, send it back and we'll refund your money. No questions asked. To order or for more information, call Delaware at 1-800-OFFER-94. Write it down, 1-800-OFFER-94. For a limited time, get free next-day shipping. Call 1-800-OFFER-94 or visit your nearest CompUSA, Computer City, Egghead, or other fine retailer today.
When do you need immediate itch relief?
When I go to bed, my itching will start getting real bad.
Eleanor Wallace of Xenia, Ohio got effective immediate relief with new Gold Bond medicated anti-itch cream.
The itching almost immediately stopped.
Gold Bond medicated cream's unique dual-action medicated formula contains what no other leading anti-itch cream has. 2 proven pain relievers that stop the itch and stop the pain on contact.
It has helped me to get a good night's sleep.
New Gold Bond medicated anti-itch cream. Use as directed.
Do you know there are only 44 sounds in the English language? 44. And when you learn these 44 sounds called phonics, you can read and spell almost everything. That's why Hooked on Phonics is so successful. We've set these 44 sounds to music, making learning to read simple and fun. So get hooked on phonics and take the mystery out of learning to read. Call 1-800-ABCDEFG.
When your job puts you in a world of hurt,
you need the power of BC.
Power, BC Power.
Being a shrimper is hard work from sunup to sundown.
BC Power in the powder, the power of BC.
We put out miles of net, then we have to haul them all back in. It makes for a backache 5 miles long.
BC Power in the powder, the power of BC.
My back feels like I've hauled in 1,000,000 miles of net, but BC stops the hurting fast.
You need something to see you through, something strong so you'll feel like new.
And now, from the makers of BC, introducing new Keep Going Alertness Aid. For those times when you're drowsy but need to keep alert, safe as a cup of coffee, new Keep Going capsules. Keep alert with Keep Going.
The power of BC.
Use as directed.
WKZR.
Back, ladies and gentlemen, it's Rush Limbaugh on the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Hey, I'm glad we got some calls about this, so without any further ado, let's start in Rochester Hills, Michigan with Carolyn. Welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you very much, Rich. Mega dittos. It's just a pleasure to get through. I have both of your books, and I just think they're wonderful. Your analyses are just really incisive.
Thank you very much.
I can think of 2 examples of same-sex schools, and I would just be interested in what merit you see in these situations. Of course, the first one, I realize is an example of people who are affluent, but these are like the college prep schools in the East, and I know these are wealthy people, but basically these are people who have a real fixed focus on education, and they want their children to get in the best colleges.
No, you're talking about college there. You're talking more toward adulthood. That's arguable.
Okay, and then the other...
Those are private schools where you're paying to send your kids there and make your decisions accordingly. It's not public schools. And,
okay.
And I still think, you know, I would just have to make an off the top of my head judgment as I think back to women I know who are graduates of all women's universities and colleges, and I think they're a little kooky. But I can't, the ones I've known are, but I wouldn't say that that's because they went to the all-girls school, so I'm not prepared to make that claim.
Basically, I meant at the high school level.
Oh.
And the other situation I think of is also at the high school level. I think like of Catholic schools where there are same-sex schools and the uniforms are worn, and they make a real outreach effort to try to bring in all levels of society, all economic levels. Yeah. And, of course, studies, I think, have shown that parochial schools do a good job educating children, especially in terms of the dollars that are spent.
Yeah. I can think of one example where I would suggest that a single-sex school would work. And note that it was tried in your neck of the woods. It was tried in Detroit. A very enlightened educator there thought that it might be wise to young black high school and junior high school aged students, send them to schools with only male teachers and only male students because they are absent male role models at home. And I thought, great idea. Guess who opposed it? The feminists. And feminists came along and said, you can't do this. You can't. You remember this, Carolyn? You remember this?
I am generally aware of this.
You can't do it, they said. You can't do it because they were afraid that what was going to happen in there was a great education. Role model-based education, and the women wanted to be part of it. That would have defeated the whole intention of the people who had the idea. So they weren't allowed to do it, so the idea was crashed. I could see that. My only... See, here, if I may be so bold, ladies and gentlemen, I do not live for the here and now. And I do not consider that things that are happening in America now are unfixable by virtue of visiting the past. I think that a lot of solutions to existing problems can be found by visiting the past. During the commercial break, and all during my dissertation against segregating young girls into single-sex schools, Mr. Snerdley was frowning at me. I was undeterred, and I was not distracted by his frown. But during the break, I said, so, you agree with this concept of all-girls schools? And Mr. Snerdley said yes, because for some reason, I forget exactly what it was, but I'll get close. He said that people treat each other with more respect when they're not around each other all the time. When boys go to class together and girls go to class together, when they see each other, they are more respectful of them and so forth. I responded thus. I pointed to Mr. Snerdley and I said, did you turn out okay? And he's very proud of the way he turned out as a human being. And you're very happy with the education you got. And I asked Mr. Mamone, broadcast engineer, you happy the way you turned? Yes. I am very happy with the way I turned out. I am very happy with the education I got. The education that I didn't get was my fault, not somebody else's. All right? I went to school with little girls. Mr. Snerdley went to school with little girls. Mr. Mamone went to school with little girls. I am tired of hearing that the way I was educated is the problem today. I'm tired in every avenue of our lives of hearing the way it was in the 60s and the way it was in the 70s is what's wrong with America in terms of the traditions that my family held to, the traditions Snerdley's family held to, and the traditions that Mamone's family held to, and indeed the traditions that most people's families held to. The things that have gone awry are that the people who are in charge of these cockamamie single-sex school ideas are the people who, for some unfortunate reason, were not held to traditional values in the 60s. They experimented with all these New Age garbage and 60s garbage and godless garbage. And as such, the problems that exist in America now are viewed as insoluble. We can't fix them, especially by visiting the past. Why? What do you think we can do, Russ? Go back to Ward and June Cleaver? You think we can go back to the Donna Reed show? Father knows best. They mock it. They make fun of it. And nobody says their family was like that. But I resent the notion that the way I was educated and I turned out okay, and all my friends turned out okay, and the girls I went to school with turned out okay for the most part. Some of them got screwed up and mingled with the feminist movement. For the most part, they're fine. And to hear these new stories about how we got to separate girls is to say that the way we used to do it didn't work and is to blame for what's wrong today, and it isn't.
Do you know there are only 44 sounds in the English language? 44. And when you learn these 44 sounds called phonics, you can read and spell almost everything. That's why Hooked on Phonics is so successful. We've set these 44 sounds to music, making learning to read simple and fun. So get hooked on phonics and take the mystery out of learning to read. Call 1-800-ABCDEFG.
This is WGBR News, Goldsboro's very own.
This is Wayne Alley. The State Department of Transportation awarded a contract Friday to the engineering firm of Howard, Needles, Hammond, and Bergendorf to conduct an engineering study of the Spence Avenue overpass of Highways 13 and 70, which is a bypass around Goldsboro. Mount Olive Mayor and Economic Development Commission member Lewis Pate has details.
The engineering study is worth some $182,000 and will result in the plans for an overpass and interchange for Spence Avenue with the bypass. The estimated cost for the entire project is $4.3 million. And I think all of Wayne County can take note that this is one vastly needed improvement to our system around Goldsboro that will certainly reduce a dangerous bottleneck.
Mount Olive Mayor and Economic Development Commission member Lewis Pate. 3 counterfeit $100 bills were passed at 3 Goldsboro-Wayne area businesses over the weekend, and an attempt was made to pass a 4th. That's according to complaints filed with Goldsboro and Wayne County law enforcement officers. The Wayne County Board of Education will hear a report on school and county disciplines at its regular meeting tonight at 6 o'clock in the boardroom in the Herman Street office building. Announcement of governor's school nominees is to be made by Neil Stitt and Major Al Brewster. The school board also will receive a report on the middle school roofing project and consider proposed and revised policies. The meeting will begin with numerous recognitions, including the recognition of Mrs. Shirley Bond of Fremont Elementary School as the 1994 Principal of the Year. Remedying acoustical problems in Rosewood High School apparently will have to wait. The Buildings and Grounds Committee of the Wayne Board of Education concluded that solving the problem will cost $500 to $1,000 per classroom. Depending upon the acoustical treatment decided upon, the committee estimated the total cost of correcting the problem in all classrooms will be $15,000 to $25,000 and recommended no action be taken. Emergency jobless benefits ran out over the weekend for the jobless in Wayne County and across the state. The phase-out of the program began over the weekend, and it means the jobless in the state will no longer be eligible for emergency unemployment insurance benefits once their regular benefits run out. The weather forecast is next. I'm Wayne Alley.
A very nice afternoon underway for early February as a weak area of high pressure briefly dominates the region. An approaching cold front may change things for some of us tomorrow, though. The forecast for this afternoon, mostly sunny and mild. We'll have light winds, highs today in the low to mid-60s. Then tonight, partly cloudy skies, lows dropping off to 35 to 40 degrees. And for Tuesday, it'll be partly sunny, except mostly cloudy with a few sprinkles up near the Virginia border. Highs tomorrow 55 in the north to 70 in the south. I'm Mike Moss at the Weather Center.
Rush Limbaugh. Center stage on the mic.
1-800-282-2882 if you'd like to be on the program. Back to Chicago. This is Jim. You're next on the Rush Limbaugh program.
How you doing, Rush? Great to get through.
Thank you very much.
I think that you're off base a little bit on this because, not for the reasons that the feminists are saying for the all-girl schools, but I went to the Catholic schools in Chicago, and first through 8th grade was mixed, but in high school, when you start being attracted to the opposite sex,
hormones are flowing.
It's a distraction for you, and I think that the idea was that the people who, when you're in school, you're there to concentrate on schoolwork and not to be ogling the girl across the aisle from you or worrying about social relationships. There's plenty of time for that after school, and they have functions, to take care of that. The results of the Catholic schools in the city of Chicago as compared to the abysmal failure of the public schools is, it's obvious. People know how to read when they get out of school in the Catholic schools.
Maybe so, but see, I'm not going to sit here and disagree with you. We're talking about two different things, in essence, because the reasons being offered by the proponents of single-sex schools have nothing to do with any of the reasons you just gave.
Oh, I understand that, but if there's the reasons they want to give, I think that it's a system that did have a lot of positive benefits.
Maybe
so. Whatever reason they want to give for it, then that's fine.
No, the reason matters. Because you've got to question the motivation of some people. The reason can be the objective can be good, the reason can be wrong, and therefore you shouldn't follow through on the objective. These people are behind this are doing it on the basis that there is bias and discrimination intellectually against these girls. It has nothing to do with the boys are cads.
Right.
Nothing to do with the boys and girls are distracting one another as their hormones rage. It's based on the fact that girls aren't treated fairly, they're not called on, they're not given enough attention and all that kind of stuff.
No, I agree with you 100% on that, but I'm just saying that if the end result of this is that they try schools that are segregated by sex, then it may have some good positive results. Well, I think it was a system that worked very well.
But your reason is good there. The reason they're separating boys and girls, or the reason they want to in this latest, shall I say, rage, is because girls are going to be made to feel more special. They're going to be complimented more. They're going to be paid more attention. They're going to be given an unrealistic example of what life is like. One of the great things about school is also the social education that people get there. In homeschooling, it's a big rage in this country now. One of the criticisms of homeschooling is that when you take your kid out of school and educate him in your house, that he or she's not learning to interact with other students, and not everybody you meet's going to be a nice guy, and not everybody's going to give you a fair shake, and not everybody's going to pay you the attention you think you deserve, and not everybody's going to recognize your talent. For crying out loud, the legions of successful people in this world whose talents were overlooked, whose abilities were overlooked and in fact denigrated by people in school, out of school, on the way up. I mean, that number is incalculable. I could use myself. I was told I don't know how many times, in school, out of school, that I was worthless, that I didn't have what it took. So here these girls say, these girls are being told, or it's being insinuated they can't do this, we can't have that, we've got to put them in these situations where they're going to be told they're going to be great, they're wonderful, they're smart, and this kind of stuff. And it's not realistic. Life is not a bowl of cherries, and you've got somehow it goes back to what I wrote about in my first book. I had this little conversation out at Roger Ailes' house one summer with a 24-year-old woman who thought that the problem in America today was that instead of trying to understand our young people, we were pushing them too hard. Well, this is just an outgrowth of, we can't push them too hard. We got to make it easy as we can on them. We got to make it as easy as we can on these little girls because it's just too tough for them. I think because girls are victims and all this. And I'm telling you that the end result of the reasoning for this, the reason why they're going to separate these women is to give them a false notion of security, a false notion of confidence, a false notion of this. And I say false notion of it because when they leave school, they're not going to be treated this way. It's no different than if you have intramural athletics going on at a school. Let's say it's not intramural. You got a group of high schools, a conference of high schools, and one high school is 60 points better than any other team in the conference. And so they penalize that team 30 points at the beginning of each game. In other words, you guys start 30 points in a hole. You got to score 30 points before you have 0. Because we got to make it fair to these other kids. That's stupid. That's absolutely asinine. That is avoiding reality, and it's punishing the achievers. And I think this is going to result in the dumbing down of these girls ultimately in a socially interactive sense. Now, your reason, the Chicago Public Schools, because we want these kids to concentrate on their education and not concentrate on the bulges and the differences in each other's bodies and so forth. Hey, that to me is a reason that is understandable, and it's nothing political.
Well, I think the biggest reason for the success of the public, or the Catholic schools rather, in Chicago is they always had discipline.
The nuns,
and
that's exactly right.
Don't have, no matter what experiments they want to try with these public schools now, unless they get discipline to begin with, then there's going to be no success at all.
You're exactly right.
And Rush, I want to tell you, I'm a fireman in Chicago here, and you've got a heck of a following among the fire department. We got a lot of guys that are really sick and tired of the standard liberal Democrats in this town, and hopefully we'll make some changes on a local level besides the national level in the next election.
I hope so.
I want to say hi to my dad because I know he'd be thrilled that I'm talking to you.
Thank you, Jim, very much for calling. I'm happy to hear from you. Well, hey, look, by the way, remember my stipulation, beginning of this. I'm willing to stipulate that girls are given less attention. I'm willing to stipulate that girls are not given as much attention and focus as boys are. The problem, or the fix, is not taking them out of school and say, I'm taking my marbles and going home. The problem is correcting the teaching techniques. So the solution is correcting the teaching techniques. It is not segregating. And so, you see, people are going to say, boy, here goes old anti-female Limbaugh again. Boy, he just, anything women want to do to cut themselves some slack and give themselves a chance in this biased world, Limbaugh's against and so forth. And I guess it's because of the experiences of my life and the people that I have met that I can tell you for a fact that the way we used to do it in this country is not to blame for what's going on today in this country. That's number one. And number two, you do not prepare people for the rigors of life by paving them a candy cane road to travel on. You just don't do it. You don't prepare people for life, for making things as easy and as non-confrontational and as non-contentious, uncontentious as you can make them, because people are people, and once you're out of a school situation, once you're in the real world, you're going to have to deal with all personality types and all kinds of situations. And if you don't have some grounding, some preparation for that as a youngster, that's what's so great about athletics. They say athletics, football, lessons of life and so forth. It's true. As hokey as some might wish to make it sound, it's absolutely true. On the one, let me see if I can try this analogy. It's a sports analogy. There are people today who are saying, it's a shame that girls are not able to experience the things that team sports, that boys who play team sports experience. The notion of being on a championship team, the locker room camaraderie, and all of the things that boys experience. And so they're trying to see to it in some places that girls do find out what that's all about. In fact, in the old days, remember when at the outset of people deciding there were problems, The differences between boys and girls and later men and women were said to be problems of socialization, that little girls were made to play with dolls and little boys were taught to play with G.I. Joe and to get in fights. Boys could never cry. Girls were encouraged to cry. And then what they said was, we can't have that. We got to raise little girls like little boys, so that little girls can grow up be as advantaged as little boys are. And Well, apparently now that's failed too. So now the thinking is, oh, the hell with it. Let's just separate the girls from the boys. That's what we need to do. We just need to separate them, because girls just don't have a chance. The world is stacked against girls from the time they're born until the time they give birth, till the time after they give birth, the time they die. The world's stacked against them, and the only fair way is to separate them. The social architects who have attempted to explain the differences between men and women have tried every clue they can come to under the sun, every remedy under the sun, and every remedy they come up with is based on the premise that men and women are really the same. It's just that somehow women don't get a fair shot. And this is just the latest example of it. And it's ill-conceived, and it is a disservice. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise. When I'm right, I'm right. You can get mad all you want, but that's the way it is. We'll be back.
You're listening to the EIB Network. Who was the first to warn conservatives that Bill Clinton may have a virtual lock on re-election in 1996? Who was quick to expose the real Anita Hill? Who told the truth about the David Koresh debacle and Hillary's health care scam? And who dug deep to produce the unauthorized Clinton financial audit? The American Spectator, the country's most fearless news magazine. The one over 500,000 conservative thinkers rely on every month for fact-based news and commentary they can't find anywhere else. Call 800-767-1100 now and get a free trial issue of the American Spectator. If you like it, receive one full year for just $34.95. Otherwise, cancel on the spot, but keep the free issue. Call 800-767-1100. That's 800-767-1100. The American Spectator. Isn't it time you took a free look? Call 800-767-1100 now.
There are great deals at Leaf Chrysler Plymouth Jeep Eagle, Leaf Dodge Isuzu. How about a 1994 Plymouth Colt, just $10,199, or a 94 Jeep Cherokee, only $13,372, or check out the 1994 Isuzu pickup as low as just $97.95. These and hundreds of other great deals now at Leaf Chrysler Plymouth Jeep Eagle, Leaf Dodge Isuzu. All prices plus tax, tags, and dock fee. Now at Leaf Highway 70 West, Goldsboro.
My dad always said a good motor oil is the best mechanic your engine can have. For him, that meant Kendall Motor Oil.
For more than 5 generations, people have trusted Kendall Motor Oil to protect their engines. Today's Kendall protects better than ever.
My car is still my responsibility. I treat it right.
Kendall has a 112-year tradition of constant improvement. You can trust Kendall quality. Kendall Motor Oil. Pour in the protection.
Distributed in this area by Moffat Oil Company of Goldsboro.
On November 11th, after a Girl Scout meeting, Troop Leader Leanne Graham takes her 3 children to her sister's house for a visit.